Today we're going to work on leg assemblies for robotic insects. This is one that I just made. We're going to make this. This is one that I just made. And if you turn the handle, which corresponds to turning the motor, the legs move back and forth, which are in white. This is made out of cardboard. I also use push pins, 1-inch fasteners, or paper fasteners, which look like this. For tools, I have a 1-hole punch and a pair of scissors. So let's start by sketching this out. So let's grab our piece of paper and a marker. So what does this look like? We start with a base, and we're going to put two axles in it to hold the to rotate around. So those are going to be there. I'm going to mark those with an X. Oh, another tool I have is a little knife where I can cut X's into the cardboard. So I start with that. Then I'm going to have a couple legs. One leg, the rear leg, is going to look like this. It's going to have two holes, and this hole is going to correspond to this axle, and this hole is going to be, I'll show you what it's used for later. The other part I'm going to have is a front leg, which looks like a big L, and there's a hole here that corresponds to this hole, and there's a hole here which goes on this axle. And that's it. The other part that I have is a little offset so that I can move the position of this axle, this hole relative to the axle. And then there's going to be an extra part, which is a handle, and the handle is just to turn this little rotating thing around the axle. So it's going to make it has a hole in it. The hole goes in here, and when I turn it, the outer hole, this one, goes around the axle, and the outer hole connects to that. Okay, so that's my diagram. Let's try taking this assembly apart that I already made. So here we have it, and it's in its position. Let's take these things apart. So I'm going to undo the paper fasteners, take off my front leg. I have a couple spacers. That's just to make the mechanism work better. I have my handle. I have another spacer. I have my offset. I'll take that off. And this is the offset. And then I have another spacer. And then the rear leg, I can take this off of the base. Remove the paper fasteners, and so this is what I got: 4 spacers, a rear leg, a front leg, an offset, handle, and 4 paper fasteners and a base. That's all you need. Let's reassemble this. So what we want to do is we want to start with the offset, and because we're going to have the head of the paper fastener going through facing the base, we're going to put a spacer in between that and the base, just to give it some space. So there we have that, and we're going to put the axle through the offset and the spacer, like so. I'm just folding it in the back like that. Then I'm going to put another spacer on top here because of the head of this push pin, paper fastener. Then I'm going to put my handle on. Then finally I'm going to put the front leg on, and I'm going to fasten that paper fastener. So that's my front leg, and as you can see, it goes like this. Now, one problem with this is that if this were the foot, it would flop back and forth, and that wouldn't really be good. So I'm going to have to, so the rear leg is going to take care of that and also provide another point of contact with the ground. So let's do the rear leg. So the rear leg, I'm just going to fasten the pivot point on the rear, or the axle on the rear leg to the base. And then I'm going to use my 2 spacers in between the connection, the pivot point of the rear leg and the pivot point of the front leg. And I can just stick this through the back so the head's back there. Okay, so now it's back together, and if I turn it, I can also move the crank up here. I can see that it would should give a walking motion, which is the whole point. Okay, so let's go and cut these parts out. Got some cardboard, nice box that I took apart. So I'm gonna just go ahead and do that now. Use this little guy as the offset. It's my single hole punch to punch 2 holes in it. It just has to be sort of approximate. That's the beauty of working with this cardboard, that you can just use your eye. I don't even have a ruler here. So I'm going to make my rear leg with the remaining strip here. Here's my rear leg. I'm going to punch 2 holes in it. This one, top hole, is going to connect to the front leg. This lower hole is going to connect to the rear axle, and I'm just putting the lower hole about halfway through. Then I'm going to make a body. Just going to cut a big rectangle of cardboard. That should do it. Let's turn it over. Let's use the knife to mark 2 little X's in it where I'm going to stick pegs through. And this distance, so let's put the things on it that we have so far. So that goes there, this goes here. I'm just going to place them on there. Now the distance between these 2 holes is going to be the length of the upper part of the L that the front leg has. So I need to approximately, that's this distance here, in these 2 parts. So I need to approximately get that distance. So that's going to be about to here. And I'll cut down, and I need to make the leg length the same as the rear leg, so that's going to mean that I'm going to cut down to, well, I'll just cut this whole thing off. I don't know why I did it this way, but it'll work. Okay, so that's going to be that. Cut a little the foot area, and then head up and make my L. There's my L. Okay, so let's put some holes in this. There's going to be a hole here to connect to the rear leg. There's going to be a hole midway up the leg. It should be the same as the back one, to connect to the axle, front axle, the drive axle. And now let's place the parts on there. So we've got this here, and we'll overlap them like this. And that looks pretty good. So it's a little bit short, but well, it's pretty good. What else do I need? I need a couple of spacers. So I said I needed 4 spacers, so let's cut those out now. Make 2 out of this little chunk. Another little chunk. have an extra one. I'll just put that on the side. My spacers. And the final thing I need is the handle. This piece looks really good for a handle, so I'll just put a hole in it. Now I have all the parts, except for the 4 fasteners. Okay, so now I can assemble it. So let's start with the back leg this time. Put the fastener through the back leg's axle position and through the base. We'll prepare the back leg for attaching to the front leg. And we had determined before that we probably wanted 2 spacers here, so we'll put those in. We'll attach this to the front leg. Okay, so now that's ready. So now I'm going to take my spacer, put it below the offset, put my prepare the front pivot. And get the axle ready. Put that through the base. Put my spacer on. And finally put my leg on. Oh, whoops, I forgot a part. My handle on. And then put my leg on. And here I have it. I have another one. So, I managed to make 2 that are exactly the same side, but if we flipped them over, if one of these was the mirror image, we could have 2 legs for both sides, and if they were connected in the middle through the axle with a rigid body such as a pencil, we could turn one, and if the offsets were offset by 180 degrees, we would end up with something that puts its left leg forward, and then its right leg forward, and then its left leg forward, and then its right leg forward, and it would move. Check back for more videos on more complicated assemblies. Thanks.